So, welcome to the second ever Pedal Podcast. Firstly, thanks so much for all your feedback on our first ever Pedal Podcast. It was great to see the engagement. We didn't really expect it, and all the comments on what you'd like to see next, which leads me really nicely on to our special guest that we've got here tonight. So,
did everybody ask for me?
Everybody asked for you. Look, she's jumping the gun already. I was going to give them the big build-up to Katy Curd, from world champion to, world-class coach. And instead, jumped the gun straight in there.
Sorry.
She needs no introduction, that's why.
I feel like I do.
Well, an absolute legend of the Forest of Dean and integral to the whole cycle centre here. Katy has been a massive part of the cycling scene. I was going to say for how long then, and I think, actually, no, I better not.
Too long. I was trying to work out the other day, actually, like the date I actually moved down here, because this feels like home now more than anything, but yeah. Fantastic.
So talking of which, that's a great lead in to take us straight back to how you actually got into bikes and mountain biking in the first place.
Yeah, it's a good question, and one I always stumble upon, I guess, but I was one of those kids that always liked to be active. I feel like I did every sport you can imagine, from running, tennis, scooters, skateboarding, riding. And it was just the riding that stuck. But there was nothing around us that was anything like mountain biking. So it was always just hang out with your mates in the car parks, trying to pull wheelies on little Halfords bikes that we've built. And it was dirt jumping that we kind of fell into because it was the only thing that we could access, really. So we grew up around Bath and just, we built our own jumps and went to Bath trails and started kind of getting involved with the scene down there. And through that, met the guys at MBUK, Doddy especially, and then they really started kind of pushing us into racing and helping us out with lots of little products. And it started with, here's a free pair of sunglasses and then a pair of goggles and then a helmet. And then they actually turned up with a bike one day and just said, this is for you and you can take it home. And, a little 16-year-old girl was just eyes open, jaw to the floor and couldn't quite believe it. And they rocked up. I think it was a Norco Atomic or something, a massive downhill bike. And it was amazing. And then, Doddy just said, if you turn up in Scotland on this date, we'll kind of enter you into a race or something like that. And through that, I met Rob Warner, and on the day, Warner was pretty amazed at what the riding I was doing, and he kind of made a few phone calls that day and then surprised me at the end of the day, was I've just had a few phone calls with Giant and we'd like to offer you a deal on the Giant team, and kind of all spiraled from there, really. So it was mad.
So was that really your first ever race?
At that point, I wasn't even racing. I was just riding around in Alethan on a borrowed bike that was 2 sizes too big for me, and it was pretty mad. I don't think I've ever done a race at that point.
Wow! Because when you think of most kind of riders, kind of pathway to perhaps getting sponsored or to be able to kind of get there for the first time, that's often, I've been chipping away at it for years, and I've been doing this racing and that racing and local races, and then made that step up to nationals. But for you, it was literally turned up at your first event, and they were like, "That's talent. We want you."
Yeah, it's pretty mad. Looking back at it now, you see all the youngsters around here and what they're doing and what they're achieving. And I guess back then it was very different. But I hadn't ever raced before. I didn't even know what racing was. I turned up, I think my first ever race was national champs as a second year junior. And this was because of Warner. And I don't think there was any other juniors at that point, so I walked away national champ. But just, it was a pretty mad kind of entry into racing. And then everyone was talking about, are you going to Maribor next week? And I was just a shy little kid. I was I don't even know what you're on about. I didn't even understand racing. I'd never even heard of the World Cups and stuff. So it was pretty mad.
That is mad, isn't it? So your first ever race is national champs, you go and win it, you've already signed to Giant, you must have been I've already made it, this is it.
It was pretty mental. And then because of the win of national champs, I got home, and there, like 2 weeks later, there was a letter through the door. You got a letter back then, not emails, saying I was entered into, or the invite was for World Champs. And again, no idea what this even was. So they'd just be like, well, turn up to Fort William, because it was the home World Champs at that point. Turn up at Fort William for World Champs, and yeah.
So what year was that? What the World Champs Fort William was that?
Must have been 2007.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that, is. And who won? Who's the British winner? Is that the one Tracy won? Oh, I'm testing now. I should have done a bit of background research here and gone, actually, well, I honestly didn't know that backstory about, actually, you've gone straight to World Championships.
It wasn't Tracy, because she didn't win until Mont Saint Anne. I think it was, G won the men's maybe, or...
Maybe that was it, wasn't it? Because it was...
Bryceland... It was either Josh Bryceland or Rory Cunningham won for the juniors.
Junior men, yeah. Yeah, because obviously, he won the year before then. Steve Peat went and won, obviously, what is that? Cairns the following year, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he was then a first official British winner of, World Downhill Champs.
Yeah.
Where everyone had always thought it was probably going to be PT and on that men's side. So,
I think, like, looking back at, that was probably one of the most mad races I've ever done, because I knew so little about racing. I was at the top of the hill, and I think Will Longdon was team manager at that point, and it was like freezing cold at the top. The racing had been pushed forward because of a storm, surprisingly, and he wrapped me in this massive coat, and I was just like, what are we doing? And he was just like, don't worry about anything. All you've got to do is get to the bottom of the hill as fast as you can. And I was like, okay, well, that sounds simple. I was in this like skin suit that I was hating, and I was going down, and everyone was like shouting my name and waving red flags, and I was like, oh, okay, there's red flags, and everyone's blowing missiles, and I was like, okay. Got to the bottom of the hill, and they were like, are you all right? I was like, yeah, why? They were like, there was red flags all the way down the track. I had no idea what a red flag ever meant. I had shimmied past Miriam Nicole, because she had fallen off. She was junior at the time, and she was led on the floor, so I had to like get around her. And I came down in second place, and they were like, do you want a rerun? And I was just looked at the team, and I was like, I don't know what they're on about. And they were like, no, just stick with it. The best case, the worst case scenario, we've got a silver medal. So yeah.
So that is a hell of a story, isn't it? In terms of a start into racing, where you think, actually, what an introduction. And Fort William as well, obviously an iconic track, but also obviously such a brutal track as well. So in terms of the length of the track and stuff, the physicality, particularly coming from kind of, I suppose, where you haven't had much experience of racing, that must have been even more eye-opening.
Yeah, and I never really thought about it. Like, it was always a case of, this is what we've got in front of you. And that's why I always think, if I could go back at any point in time, that would be the place where I'd go back to. But I think I was also in a really lucky position, because I didn't really know what I was doing. There was no pressure. Like, if I think, oh God, your home worlds, like, everybody's there. Looking back now, I could feel the pressure from, that must have been on Tracy and Steve and all of that. And there was nothing for me, but it was...
It's almost kind of like too new to it to be able to actually even realise the situation that you're in. Whereas I said, retrospectively, you look back and go, hang on a second, the home World Championships, probably only going to happen maybe once, twice in a lifetime. Actually, what a big deal. And actually, I suppose that was the great aspect of it, is that you didn't have that pressure, because obviously it was all new to you and actually didn't have that expectation.
Yeah, totally. And I was just amazed, I'd never been to a proper race before, and British Cycling helped us out loads in terms of like the accommodation and the food. And although I was so shy back then, I just didn't say a word to anybody, and couldn't really interact with many people. But it was cool. And I just remember like being in a caravan, like staying there with Rachel Atherton and Helen Gaskell at the time. And, these were the people that I'd seen in MBUK magazines and stuff. And, been like, oh my God, I'm now staying in a caravan with these people, and just, it was just
I love
surreal.
The fact you're at World Championships and you're staying in a caravan.
It was a posh caravan. A static caravan.
We've made it, yes! So looking back a little bit in terms of that time, is there like, any riders who massively influenced you or who you really looked up to as kind of like real role models?
I guess there was, but nobody that I can, it was never racing that was ever the thing for me. I think it was always the dirt jumps and I think the people around me always inspired me. So it was whoever I saw out riding. If I saw somebody do something, then I was like, oh, well, that's possible. So I think I can go and do it. It was never the case of, oh, look at this person in the magazine doing these things. It was always just,
It's the experience of the people around you rather than...
Totally. And I had some pretty amazing friends growing up and, they were just pushing the limits of everything. Not because they wanted to be anything or do anything, but they were just mad for it. And we just used to go out and do stupid things. And it was.
Sounds like you just kind of fell into a really cool scene then in terms of where you were and terms of where you were based and actually having those people around you, which is
for sure
which is super cool, isn't it? And it's like a great way in. So
definitely.
Yeah. Cool.
Was there any moment where you were going through all this at the start where someone said something to you, like a bit of advice or that one line where you went, oh, that's really helpful, that changes everything for me?
I think there's been loads, but I can't really think about anything right now. There's been, there's so many people that have helped us along the way. And I don't think there's just this one bit of advice that's been like stuck there. I think my dad's actually been a big influence to me in terms of he's never pressured us into anything. And actually my parents have both been the same throughout. They've just been like, just do what you want as long as you're happy. I've never been that clever in terms of academics and stuff, and it's always just like, even if you end up racing, the second you don't enjoy it, just stop. So I've always kind of had that mindset, and that's, I guess, what I live by. And it's cool actually seeing Laurie Greenland. Like, I've just literally just seen a post on Instagram of him just saying he's experiencing burnout and he's taken a step back. And it's nice to see that people are actually not having to just go, I'm a racer, this is what I must do for life, and just taking their own pathway through things. So
you kind of probably answered this, but are you super competitive? But I'm guessing actually, because you said it was more about the dirt jumps and having fun on the bikes, that's not really what drove you at the start. It wasn't about, I must beat someone, I want to race, etc., etc. It was actually more kind of around the riding and developing your skills instead of actually that kind of real competitive drive, or maybe competitiveness is perhaps a slightly different way in terms of like competitive to want to push yourself against your friends to be able to do stuff that they were doing. Yeah,
I think that's it. I think I always want to be the best, but the best that I can be. Like, it's not, oh, they're doing that. Although if you ask anybody, I'm sure Karen will, my girlfriend will say I'm the most competitive person ever. If I'm doing something, I want to do it 100% and I want to do it right. And, if I see somebody doing something better than me, it just kind of shows that it can be done and I want to be able to do that. I think I'm competitive with myself rather than other people so much.
How did that impact you then as you started winning more and more national champions and getting more and more awards, and if you're trying to outcompete yourself all the time?
I think it was always looking at the little things that, where is somebody else beating me? So especially with the four-cross stuff, I knew that my skills for jumping and stuff were good. Like, I could look at a jump and be like, yes, I could do that. Or most of the time it was always like, I can do that. But I knew my gate starts were always rubbish. I'd be outgated all the time. So it was like, right, okay, I buy myself a gate. I would just practice that until I've got better at it. And it was that. So it was always finding the things that I didn't feel that confident with and trying to improve that. So you've kind of touched on there is that,
obviously you really kind of got into the four cross scene, didn't you? So how did that come about in terms of, obviously you started off dirt jumping, you've gone over, you've done a downhill race, you signed for Giant, you've had, names from the biggest names in the industry to helping you out from day one. So how did that kind of like transition then go into, on how did you find and discover four cross racing?
I was at Andorra World Cup, who knows what year. And I had just done a race and I think I'd felt pretty flat about it. Like I didn't have a very good race and I was coming back up on the chairlift, and the four cross was going on at that time. And the chairlift kind of went over the top of the four cross track and I was looking down and I was sat on the chairlift with Tracy and I was like, oh my God, look at these guys. Like, now that looks fun, as they were like just sending these big jumps and like piling into a corner. And Tracy was like, well, go and speak to Scott Beaumont. Like he'll kind of show you the ropes and tell you what to do. So I went and spoke to Scott and he was like, well, there's a national champs at home the next weekend. So if you want to come and do it. So again, my first race into four cross was national champs, and I think I walked away with the national champs jersey as well. So,
that's senior national champs as well. So you were British national champ at the first ever go at four cross racing.
Yeah, it was. I can't remember. It was the first. It was either that or Charlie Phillips, but I think it was because I, annoyed her and just walked in first go and took the win. But yeah, it was just. I think because I've grown up dirt jumping, it was just, that was
supernatural for you.
Yeah, for sure. And even now, like I jump back on my hardtail dirt jump bike and it's probably where the biggest smile always comes from. Like it doesn't matter whether I'm whizzing around a car park or the dirt jumps or a pump track. I'm like, this is home for me.
Yeah, and I think you have touched on there, haven't you? Because at the time at the World Cups, obviously they had four cross racing as part of it when it was all done on the same things. It was downhill and four cross, so you might see kind of like, and I remember seeing like G. Efton, and I said he would be world champion on the downhill, but you might go and race four cross as well, and you'd see the same guys and girls in the mix. So it was kind of obviously kind of a bit. I guess that if you hadn't been on the chairlift and hadn't seen it, you might have never gone and asked the question, and then obviously the rest that followed along afterwards. So. Yeah,
it was. It was definitely a good few years, and it was a mix of doing both the downhill and the four cross, and when you could back then. And I do remember, like I think I signed for Rose Bikes and. It was at the time where I was still doing both, and I think I did a year of both and just completely burnt out, and they just turned around and said, like, you've got to pick one, and it was like a no-brainer. It was like, right, okay, four cross it is, and it was. So
when did that happen about? Because obviously you obviously also won, and it's dropping in. You were senior, the national champion for the downhill as well, weren't you? So was that before or after you made that decision?
I have no idea.
It was 2010, wasn't it? You were British national downhill champ. Was that right?
Could be.
Sounds like it. We have done a little bit of background. Yeah. So 2010, and then obviously, when did you win the World Four Cross Champs?
2013, 14.
2013, 14. So like national champs. Then probably likely they switched over then and said, right, sole focus is going to be now four cross, and obviously leads really nicely into that iconic kind of four cross world championship win.
Yeah, it was a funny one. Like I've been trying, I think like had my heart set on it for a good 3 years maybe.
Yeah.
The first year I felt like confident to go into it. I think I ended up third or no, actually I snapped my chain. I snapped my chain in practice, put a brand new chain on. Came out the gate and snapped it again, and I was devastated. Like I couldn't quite get over it. I was like in the best shape, and I was just walked away from that absolutely like flat. So following year actually again came in and again missed out on it by like a little bit. I think Caroline Buchanan won it, and I'm stood on the podium in second or third, and most people would be happy with it. And my face is just like, I just don't want to be here. Came into it the following year again, and at this point nobody wanted to sponsor us for four cross, so I was just like, do you know what, screw you then, I'm going to spray paint my bars and stem and stuff, so I make sure I had no sponsors on there whatsoever. I think I had emailed quite a few people and just said, I'm not expecting the world, but is there any chance you could help us out with this or that? I think I specifically wrote in the email, I'm going to win world champs. So, and they were just like, no, we can't do it. And I was just so confident that something in me, I was just like, I know I'm walking away with it. So I had done everything possible, you know, like trained and spent weeks and weeks up at the British Cycling Manchester BMX track and kind of trained with like Sinead's Reed at the time, which was, you know, eye-opening, just watching all the smaller details and everything they go into.
Like, you're talking in one of probably the world's best on gate starts. I remember watching her, like, obviously build up to London in 2012 and stuff, and actually seeing them in, obviously on the BMX facility, and it was just like, it was mind-blowing how quick out the gate she was, how powerful she was.
It's insane, yeah, and just, again, like eye-opening, just the detail that they go into, and you just, you know, like if you want something that bad, you just put yourself in the situation that you need something to happen. So surround yourself by the people that are doing the right things, and you just make it happen. And I remember being it was Leah Gang again for world champs, and I think I got into the final, and I think it was Will Longdon again for the team manager, and I was like, none of the girls had done the 2 big jumps at the bottom.
I was wondering when we're going to come on to this, because you've got to. I'm going to have to say at this point, you've got to go and watch it on YouTube, find the clip, because it's one of the most iconic overtaking moves, isn't it?
It is.
That final kind of, it's a super close race. You know, it's like you're battling for the win, and it all comes down to that final jump, doesn't it? And Caroline goes round it, and you hit it, wasn't it? Yeah.
I knew that would be outgated again. So I actually chose a different gate so I could make sure that she would have the better gate than I would, and then she wouldn't cut me up. So I kind of played my tricks, and I just got Will Longdon to ring the boys down at the bottom before we'd set off, and just said, what's the wind like for the jump? And because it was like real windy, and the boys apparently on the phone were saying, it is really windy, don't go for it. So Will Longdon turned around to me, was like, they said it's all good, put the phone down. And I was like, great. I just sprinted my little heart out into the jumps, and did a big overtaking on the jumps, and I landed, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in front. All I've got to do is make one corner, and we're done. So it was kind of weird though, crossing the line, because it was like, I've worked so hard for this and put so much effort into it. I kind of crossed the line, and I was like, oh, thank God that's done. And it was like an instant moment going, okay, what's next then? And it's funny actually, like hearing a few people like from different sports as well, just kind of saying, okay, we've ticked that one off, and like straight away you're already like thinking about the next thing. So it's
well, so was, you know, and it's kind of my mindset, and it leads kind of talk well when we talk about the coaching later on, but was goal setting then for you like absolutely key, and did that really help drive you? Because from what you described there, that's kind of like classic, isn't it? I'm putting everything in, I've got my goal, I know what I want to do, I'm going to go away and work on these things to give me the best opportunity, you know, set your little milestones and kind of work towards them, and obviously, you know, in that case it all came together, didn't it, for that massive win, which is
I think for sure, without even knowing about it though, like I definitely had this, I don't know, it was just this drive every day, and every morning and every night it was like, I'm going to be a world champ, and that was it. Like there was no, I'm not going to stop until it's done. It wasn't like I set out every year and being like, right, this year I'm going to do this, and this year I'm going to do that. It was just, anyone would ask me like, what's your goals for the next 5 years? I was like, well, just going to win world champs, and that's that. And just, I want to win a World Cup, and it wasn't like I had specific goals for specific things. But I think without knowing about it, it was definitely a driving point.
But how do you, so you know, it's one of the things I've always wanted to ask, because, you know, when you kind of hit a big goal like that, you know, how do you then kind of like reset yourself to be able to go on? Because that's world champs, you know, that's like the top of the game, isn't it? You know, outside the Olympics, and obviously four cross wasn't in the Olympics at the time, you know, isn't in the Olympics. It was one of those ones where you can't go really any higher than that. So how do you then kind of like get the motivation to be able to get back up and get back on with the training once you've already got to that, that kind of level?
Yeah, it's a really good point. And actually, I think for someone like me, I get bored very easily. So it's actually been pretty good for me to be switching to the downhill and then the four cross. I dabbled in enduro. But yeah, I think as soon as I won that four cross world champs, I actually then just went, okay, I've not actually raced since. So I think I did one national just because I wanted to wear the jersey, and then I haven't raced since. So I've just switched my focus to the downhill, and of course I hadn't raced downhill for years and years. So it was like, all right, I'm starting at the bottom, and I just was trying to get better and better and better. But then saying that for like the national champs four cross, I think I was national champ for so many years, but actually it was just because I love it. And it was just my life. Like every year where the nationals like go live as like, here's the dates they're on. It was like, right, quick, mark them in the calendar and make sure we're there. And yeah, just absolutely, you build your life around it, like your friends, and it's just what you do. It was, it was, nothing else even mattered. It was just like, okay, those are the dates. This is what we're doing, and whatever happens, we're going to make it happen. So yeah.
And so you talked then about obviously switching back to downhill, which I'm assuming said obviously partly driven. You've hit the top with four cross. But yeah, was there anything else that kind of like drove you at that time to make that switch again back to that downhill focus, downhill racing?
It was mainly when the UCI had dropped the sport, like the four cross pro tour, like Chris Roberts and Scott Beaumont picked it up, and they're doing an amazing job and still are. But all the sponsors left the sport, like the money left the sport, and it just meant that we couldn't carry on doing what we were doing. And Rose Bikes, who I was with at the time, just said, look, we're not going to support you in four cross anymore. There's not any longevity with it, but we are going to support you for the downhill. And I was like, well, okay. So we'll give it a good go. And yeah, that's basically what we did. And it's sad when you think about it, because it is still now, I think, one of the most exciting sports to watch. Like it's a minute long, you can't get bored. There's always action. I was thinking about this last night. It was just absolutely love it. But something drew me to the downhill, and it was again just another challenge. Just like I didn't feel that good at it, and I've never really done it to a high level. So yeah, it was nice to be rubbish at something and try and work my way up at it.
I'd hardly say rubbish, because we talked about your first race and you walk away British national champion. Oh yeah. So and you went obviously straight to World Championships for the downhill as well. But it was almost like revisiting it, and probably did you feel like the standard in downhill had like really improved in that time that you were away? Yeah,
definitely. It was a big shock, I think. Just kind of seeing what the girls were doing and how they were, like the speed and the jumps that they were hitting. Although I think like the jumps were my kind of strength, and actually going fast was my weakness. I think with downhill there's massive risk in it. You're going so fast, and one little mistake has caused some big injuries and stuff. And yeah, I think that was what kind of pulled me away from it at the start. Like I think I done a good few races and had a couple of injuries, and never got that through the four cross lot. So it was, it was definitely good fun though.
Yeah. And so was there like, you found like from coming with that four cross background, kind of like there's tracks that really suited you where you felt you could excel, and others where you perhaps really struggled, perhaps because of the technicality you said, or maybe the speed and things. So yeah, was there things that kind of like where you were like, oh, I know I can do well there, or I hated that course. I'm like, I don't want to go, but I've got
to. Races. It's funny, like the races like Fort William, I would always come into and dread. Like I used to suffer with arm pump like never before, but actually it was those races where I actually did the best. Like I think I got 2 or 3 World Cup podiums on the downhill at Fort William, and it would be like one of the tracks I'd be like, oh God, not this one again. For some reason always did well there. Mont St. Anne used to just hate and dread going out there because it was so fast. You just had to and again, the arm pump, but I would really struggle with that. But then you come to somewhere like Leogang and it's full of jumps, and I was like, yeah, okay, buzzing for this. Yeah, I don't know whether there was anything. I used to love it when it rained. I used to absolutely be buzzing when it was raining. So we did the World Cup at Le Bresse in France and just absolutely hammered down for racing. And I was like, okay, this is on. So again, that was probably one of the last World Cup podiums I got before I walked away from it. And but yeah, I just remember coming into the finishing field and it was just a grassy field and just slalom turns, and I just was going up in the chairlift and just seeing all of the riders just getting to the turns and just completely sliding out and thinking, okay, we don't need to do this. Let's yeah. But yeah, it was.
And obviously, because the racing was really evolving then, and you were getting more and more big teams getting into to the sport, did you then kind of like see that, you know, as there must have been some real challenges with that, I guess, in terms of you were there not essentially as a privateer, but you were Rose was a one-man band effectively, or a one-woman band, and you know, you didn't have that kind of big support there, did you, to be able to? So it's not really a level playing field as such, I guess. Yeah,
I think that was one of the big things that. Whether it was jealousy or what, but you know, you'd see the people that you were competing against, and at national level, you know, I think we were competing with mainly Tani and Manon at that point, and I was always within their time at nationals, if not like beating them some points. And then we get to a World Cup and it would just be 10, 15 seconds behind, and I'm just thinking, what is that difference? And, you know, you see them turn up with their big team trucks and not having to lift a finger, and we're kind of parked half a mile down the mountain range in the back of a car that we've, just rented, and, you know, stressing out that we've got a puncture and we've got to like half an hour before practice finishes. It is really hard at a World Cup as a privateer. And, I kind of pushed and tried to make it on one of the big teams, and it wasn't until the very last year that I was racing that it kind of happened with Hope, but still, again, not not at the level that I guess you really need to.
Yeah, the big teams were operating at.
Yeah, for sure. And it does really help, you know, like you see it making massive differences for the riders out there that switch from privateers to full factory teams.
And I guess that's something we're seeing less and less of now at that World Cup level, isn't it? If you followed the sport over the last couple of years, is that, you know, they're really kind of honing or reducing the pool to be able to so that and you know, making sure that you have to, you know, your team's got to be registered and all that kind of thing. You've got to have a certain amount of points to be able to compete. So I guess we're probably going to see the death of that privateer in many respects, in terms of not have that opportunity unless you're on a big team, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's sad in some ways, but that's, I guess, because I've just had such a good time, and I feel like I feel really grateful to have been in the sport when it was like that, to have that opportunity and actually just spend my entire 20s traveling around the world racing bikes. And, you know, I couldn't have done that unless I was on a team. And I look at it now and I think, blimey, it's so hard to make that cut. And I think it's good for the sport. Like, it has made it a lot more professional, and I really hope it does bring the money into the sport and gives the riders what they deserve. I guess we'll have to wait and see down in the long run to see if it actually works. But yeah, I don't know how the privateers now would get into the races. I feel like the IXS Cups or the European champs and stuff are going to be the ones that I guess people will move to. And it's just I guess different chapter for the racing, because, you know, I don't think many people look at the IXS as that bigger races, but maybe they'll become that formula
gateway almost to
that's it,
to kind of like a higher level of racing. So
I think there was, I don't know whether this is right or not, but I've heard rumours that they were taking away like the Junior World Cup as well, and I really hope that doesn't happen.
Considering how good that level has got now, in terms of, you know, when you're looking, and I think it's something that I wanted to talk about a little bit later when we talk about kind of like developing future talent in your role now as a coach as well. But it's something where we've seen so much talent seems to be coming through at that junior level, both male and female, which is great. And then you look at some of the great junior women that are coming through in the level that they're riding at. You'd really hope that they kind of keep that there.
For sure.
you know, it's a difficult one as well, isn't it? Because, you know, do you have to, you know, give up school to be able to start tracing your dreams at an age, and actually, you know, the fallback element and things as well. So I can see the balance there for it from a World Cup level, going, actually, you know, is it better that people go to European events as a Europe-based rider, and then, you know, we don't take that step up to World Cup until you get to senior? But obviously also we've just seen this real hotbed of talent coming through over the last couple of years, and actually it's great to watch the junior racing. Both, you know, it's like cool. They're as fast in many cases, aren't they? It's actually elites.
Yeah, if not faster. I know. Was it last year they were putting in times that were beating the elites?
Yeah,
it's it is crazy. I think it would be such a shame if they do take that away, because, you know, that's what people look at. That's what people watch. Yeah, I hope it stays, because it also gives the youngsters something to aim for. You know, like, how many youngsters do we speak to around here that's like, I just want to race a World Cup? Or, you know, if you take away that pathway, like, what have we got? So
yeah. So talk to us a little bit then about that kind of decision to step away from World Cup racing. So what kind of drove that, and kind of like that transition then to, okay, what's next?
Yeah, it's I was going to say it's a hard one for me to answer. It was a big mix of everything. I wasn't getting bored of it, but I remember kind of training at home and going, oh God, this again. Like, you know, like, it was something in my head was going, what am I doing this for anymore? I was also a mix of, I had some big old injuries, including like smashing my head into the floor and concussion, and had like fluid build up on the back of my brain, and I'd had to take like pretty much 2 years out, and I had problems with like massive head pain and, you know, my breathing and seeing flashing lights for pretty much 2 years. And then my aim was just to get back to racing, get back to World Cups. And I remember setting out the start gate and at one of the World Cups and going, right, I've done it. This is great. I'm back doing this now. And then it was like a couple of months later, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing this for? You know, like, what is the drive anymore? Like, and there was also other stuff going on in my life. Just enjoying other stuff. Like, actually, I'd never done stuff away from racing. It was always like, grown up, like, right, I just want to ride my bike, or I'm going through this uplift, or I'm doing this. And then actually, I guess, fell in love with Karen, and we just went to and did stuff outside of the sport. And I was like, oh my God, there's actually a life outside of bikes, which sounds really stupid, it's kind of made that decision for me of going, okay, when you're not enjoying it and you've lost that drive. And so there was loads of stuff that was happening all at the same time. It was a very hard transition for me. I think the biggest one was up at Fort William for a race again, and I literally was halfway down the track and I just burst out crying, like, underneath my goggles, middle of practice, and just went, I have no idea what I'm doing here anymore. And that was it. I just rolled down to the bottom, and everyone was like, you all right? And I was like, no. I was surrounded by, my family had come up, and a coach had come up, and Karen was there, and I just didn't want to be there, and I just wanted to go home. And everyone was trying to talk me into racing, and I managed to get to the start gate. I managed to do a race, fell off in like the fifth corner or whatever, and I was just made that decision, sat on the floor, and I was like, that's me done. So I rang up Hope, who had paid for my flights for the next couple of World Cups, and I just said, I'm really sorry, but I can't do this anymore, and I'll go to Leogang and I'll race the next World Cup, but that's me done. I think the hard part was actually just, I guess, stepping away from that life that was all I've known, and actually then just going, okay, who am I? Who am I away from racing? And that was a real hard transition to work out. But yeah.
Well, yeah, you've been doing it since you were 16.
Yeah.
And when most people are out finding themselves in their early 20s, you were, living an amazing life, don't get me wrong. Like you said, traveling the world racing bikes, but that is everything to you. So how did you actually adjust then? What made you kind of go, these are the path I'm going to take now?
It was really hard. It was trying to find another angle in terms of like, actually, what do I enjoy? Because I think that was, I'd paid a coach to basically write me a program. So every morning I'd wake up and be like, oh, what's on my schedule? I've got to do this and I've got to do that. So even without that, I felt lost. I'd wake up and be like, I have no purpose today.
Is that something you said to Karen? Karen, you need to write me a program.
Yeah, tell me what to do, please. So the coaching was always something that I did alongside racing, and something I really enjoyed and something I really loved. And it was then that I kind of put my efforts into that and actually just went, you know what, I really do enjoy this. And I really enjoy my riding as well. Like, so it was a case of going, I don't have to ride because it's on the schedule. I can go out and ride because I want to ride, and I can go and ride whatever I want to. And but yeah, it took me a good couple of months to adjust for sure. Just working everything out. And well, I say months, probably a year. But also like the conversations you have with people, because people knew me as a racer, even around here, you know, like, oh, what you doing, or what you entering, or what's going on. And it's hard to transition from that as well and go, actually, like, I kind of felt that people saw me as Katy Curd the racer, and it was like, okay, actually, if I'm not that, actually, who am I? Do I just flitter away into the background and get forgotten about? But
But I'd actually say now here in the Forest of Dean, you've become a name with coaching and with what you bring to the Forest. So you've obviously transitioned into that quite well. How would you say you've done that? Because obviously it's not just a case of I've turned up, I've coached some people and off they go.
Yeah, I think it is that thing as well of like, whatever I'm doing, I really want to do it well. And with the coaching, it's something that, you know, I go away from the coaching session and I'm buzzing from it as well. Just doesn't matter who I'm coaching. But I always look back and go, what could I have done differently? Or was there a sticking point that I actually didn't know how to help this person? And if there always is, you know, like I'm learning from every single person I coach, and I kind of go away and, you know, it makes me then want to be a better coach. And I think it's because I care about it and have that passion. And it was the same with riding. It always has been, you know, like if someone's better than me, or if I want to do something better, I will always try and look into it. And it's, you know, I've read a lot of coaching stuff and actually tried to go out there and figure it out myself, and then done a lot of research into sports psychology, because it's half the battle of kind of talking to people. Just everything that goes into it. So,
yeah, and going to link this back to the kind of the Forest of Dean as well. Obviously, it's you know, been your home now for like, you know, well over 10 years, and you know, and so how is that kind of like, you know, I suppose where you are and where you live, how's that kind of affected your kind of like your life choices by post racing, and how it's kind of like how that coaching has built up?
Yeah, I think, I mean, this place is incredible, and if you know, I've watched it grow from what was just a very small little shed down here before. I think the very first time I came down, I used to drive over from Bath with like the car packed full of all our mates, and turn up, and there was maybe one track, and I think I remember like bumping into Viv Jones on the trails. I was like, wow, look at him, he's really fast. To what it is now, you know, like you turn up past 9:30 on a weekend and you can't even park, and it's incredible to see something that everybody can come and enjoy, from literally World Cup downhill riders that are racing like the mini downhills and stuff and coming here riding every weekend, to families that are just brand new to riding and hiring bikes and stuff. You don't really get that at any other centre. Yeah. So I feel really grateful to be able to be part of that. And, you know, there's been so many chapters of the people that are here, and, you know, we've had like the Dame Cycling Women's Group. You know, I remember sitting down with Ian, and one of his aims for here was like to get more women to this centre and get more kids to this centre, and that was one of his big driving points. And you now look at the place, you know, like you turn up and there it's like, I was going to say a 50-50 split between women and men. Yeah. It's nearly there. Yeah. But so many kids here, and, you know, you guys have done such an amazing job at being able to, I guess, introduce more people to the sport and make it accessible for everybody as well. So, I feel very grateful to call this place home.
Yeah, and I think, there's a couple of things to touch on, but, it's like, I just remember looking back, the last mini downhill, I think, Jordan Williams was racing, wasn't he? He got specialised gravity on the start list of a mini downhill, and you're thinking the Forest Dean, and then on the other level, like you said, people taking their first ever steps to be kind of like riding a mountain bike or riding, a bike off-road, which is fantastic. But I suppose where I was kind of linking it to as well is as in a coaching environment, it seems to work really, really well from, being able to progress people, as you said, from almost beginner all the way up to World Cup level. Is that your experience?
Yeah, we've, there are so many trails here, and I think because we know them off the back of our hand, we can, if somebody's got a goal in mind, we can build it up rather than just take them to that feature and go on, off you go, then this is how you do it, good luck, and hope you don't break anything. It's like, okay, this is the skills that are needed. We can build this up easier and easier and just get progressively harder. So yeah, it is amazing to have this facility, and yeah, you don't really get that at any other place, like.
We've got a visitor jumping in on our YouTube here. You'll see Rory the dog jumping in because he wants to jump enough. in on the podcast. Brilliant. I was completely lost my train of thought there.
He's like bored now. You guys are boring me.
That's it. That is it, isn't he? No, he's looking to get up on the sofa. Anyway, moving back, you said obviously the coaching. One of the elements I wanted to touch on is that obviously I saw yesterday, you were coaching Hattie Harden.
Yep.
And obviously, you were coaching or are coaching Evie Richards and stuff as well. So you're now coaching some world class athletes.
Yep. So
how did that come about? Kind of going from, it's because obviously those guys again are right at the top, aren't they? And so how did that first come about? And now obviously, how did that then build on to, your work with the British cycling team and the cross country program and things? So talk us through how that's really evolved.
I think it's one of those things of being in the right place at the right time, and I can't remember who I was coaching at the time, but I was stood on the GBU drop coaching somebody, and Evie Richards was riding past us, and she just looked at me, and we'd known each other from previous British cycling World Cups or training camps or whatever, and or riding out with Tracy and a couple of other people, and she looked at me and was like, "Oh, I need to get in touch with you. I need to be better skilled. I really want to be able to get off this drop." And I was like, "Yeah, no worries, give us a shout," not thinking she ever would. And that evening she just dropped us a message like, "Is there any chance you could help me?" And I was like, "Oh my God, no, well, I don't actually think I can. How am I meant to help someone who's already winning worlds?" But yeah, she came to us and just said, "Look, this is my goal, GBU drop." And I was like, "Okay." So within that session, we worked up and we got her off the GBU drop, and she was like, "I didn't think we'd be doing that today. I meant it as like a 6-month goal." And I was like, "Oh, right, okay." But I think that we got on so well, and, she said she'd been through a few coaches and just kind of never, it's all about who you gel with, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are so many coaches out there, and you've got to find the right person that worked for you. And I think me and Evie kind of clicked. Like, she really obviously understood what I was saying, and there was never any pressure on her. And I think it was because of her, like, she's obviously very well known, and that worked well for me. Just, she introduced us to the British cycling team, I guess. And that was kind of everything opened up from there, all the opportunities and stuff.
Because obviously they built up to you basically going to an Olympic Games and then being there as tech advice basically that, which must have been amazing, because having experienced that environment myself, it's like nothing else, is it?
Yeah, it was pretty incredible actually, and I think Evie had put my name forward 2 years previous. I can't remember because COVID was in the way.
And this was a shortlist process to go through and things like that.
Yeah.
People who don't know, with the British Olympic Association, and they whittle it down, and they've only got a number of cards that get given to coaches, don't they? So you only get you might have 20 coaches working with the GB program, but they can only take a finite amount, can't they?
Yeah, for sure. It was. I didn't really kind of realise what the process was, but I I think she put my name forward, but at the time they didn't know even which riders they were taking. And I was coaching Evie. There was Annie as well, and she had Matt Simmons as a coach, or maybe I've got this wrong. So there was like 3 coaches, and it was all dependent on who was being picked as the rider. It turned out that Simmons went to the Tokyo Olympics, and I was like, felt really gutted and flat about it. And then everyone was saying how rubbish it was because it was COVID anyway. So I was like, okay, I'll get over that then.
If you're going to miss an Olympic experience, it was probably the one to miss, wasn't it? And instead you got Paris, which, come on, is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
And I still didn't, even kind of when they asked me about it, I was like, yeah, okay, no, I'm really up for it. I'd do anything possible. But I was like, I'm not going to believe it until I'm on that kind of flight going out there, and I'm actually out there doing it because of what had happened before. And I was like, yeah, we went to the pre-Olympic games and stuff, and I was like, okay, no, I could actually really make a difference here. And yeah, it was nice, just I guess working with Evie and going to a race with her as well, because we'd always just done the work here, and then I was like, right, see you later, good luck at your race. And so yeah, it was incredible. Like I asked me when I was younger if I ever thought I'd be at Olympic Games. The answer would definitely be no. So yeah, to experience that was mind blowing, and I just hope I get to go to another one, to be honest.
Yeah. And did that connection then with, say, Hattie come after Evie, or was that like the same kind of time? Is almost like, again, about it being introduced, or was it just kind of like, oh, I see you working with Evie, can you help me? I see you got her off the GBU drop. I've always wanted to do that. Can you do it for me?
Yeah. I can't even remember with Hattie. I feel like I've known her for ages. Again, I met her through Tracy Mosley and just going out for rides with her. And
of course, I was thinking then there's a Timo connection in terms of, obviously, and you forget sometimes with Hattie now because where she's racing and what she's doing.
Yeah.
But actually came from a very different background. Again, more XC, more kind of cyclocross racing and stuff as well. I remember a cyclocross national champ, I think it was. Powering on, and then obviously you see this incredible enduro and downhill racer. It's like there's no end to her talents.
Yeah, it's mad, and you just think every time somebody that's racing at such a high level gets in touch with me, I'm always just like. I turn around to Karen, I'm like, there's no way I can help them. They're already, like Evie's already world champ, Hattie's already enduro world champ. And, but yeah, I kind of have this little moment of going, oh God, no, what can we do? But yeah, and then we get out on the trails and I'm like, okay, well, you're great at this, but actually not so much here. And yeah, that's still where my passion lies, I guess, helping people that are already racing, because just going out with Hattie yesterday and working on the very small things that we were doing, it was amazing to see the differences. She's obviously spent the last couple of years racing enduro and switching into the very much downhill now. So they're 2 very different sports. So I was saying yesterday, just like switching from enduro Hattie to downhill Hattie, like it was cool to see that switch. And yeah.
So yeah, how do you change then? Obviously your approach as a coach then, because you're going, wow, like you said, they're 2 very different disciplines and require different skill sets, don't they? So how do you start that, breaking down that process in terms of going, right, okay, if we're going to get you to there, this is what we need to do?
Half of it is just understanding the sports themselves. And I think that's where I guess I feel very lucky to be able to have raced 4-cross, downhill and enduro, and just actually go and understanding, like, you can't race an enduro race like you can a downhill race. So it's, Hattie was used to racing sort of 20 minutes down a hill, and you cannot put 100% intensity into that performance. But for the downhill now, like if you're not pushing in every straight, every corner, like everywhere, you're going to be kind of missing out here, there and everywhere. So it's just, the skills are the same, whether you're racing downhill, cross country, like enduro, like the same thing. You go off a drop in the same way, you ride a corner the same way, but it's being able to go, okay, do we need to slow down here to speed up there, or do we need to like really start pushing you here? And I think it's also understanding the rider that you're working with as well. Like that's half the battle. So just going, okay, if we start really pushing you on this section, is that going to make you slower in another section? And I think like being able to work with a rider over a long period of time helps me as a coach more, because you understand who they are as a rider, how to speak to them, where to actually push them. And it doesn't matter if this is a World Cup rider or somebody that's out riding for fun, like you have to find that person's limit. If you push it too far, they're going to lose their trust in you. And if you don't push them far enough, then they're obviously not getting out of the session of what they want. So yeah, it's a fine balance.
Yeah, and I think you're touching on some really interesting points there, because most coaches would have looked at it and said, oh, well, I need to understand the technical aspects, and it's about, really understanding that. But actually, from what you're kind of alluding to there, it's knowing the person is as important as kind of like being able to know how to tell, to get them to go faster in a corner and other elements, because you've got to have that rapport and that balance and understand them as human beings first and foremost to be able to get the most out of them. Yeah.
And I think that is one of the real key things for me, just like working with each person individually. Like, we run like the group courses and stuff, and they're great because you really see people progressing. But when you work one-to-one with someone, there's just a very different element of it. Like, and this is like when that person kind of puts their trust into you. We have so many people come back to us and go, this is great, but I really need you to come everywhere with me, because I don't know I can ride it unless you tell me I can. And it's just like, well, you can. It's but yeah, it is amazing to kind of work with all these individuals. And for me, for sure, it is better to work with somebody over a longer period of time.
Perfect. Well, we're coming to the end of our second ever Pedals podcast, so we're going to start wrapping things up now. But if you were looking back as your first year of your career as a racer, what would you pick out as your kind of like your real highlight?
There's definitely one race that kind of stands out for me as my biggest highlight, and it wasn't even like it was a big win. Fort William, again, it was a four-cross win at Fort William, but it wasn't a world champs or anything. But yeah, it was mainly for me, it was just nobody thought that I would win. Everyone thought that Caroline would win. All the pressure was on her, all the media were on her. I just rode a really smart race, and I just saw her make a mistake and a few mistakes in practice, and I was like, right, I know you're going to make that in the race run, and just kind of, pick smartly on my gates and pick smartly in my racing. And it was, still my head was in the right place, and it was still one of the best races I ever won. And I just remember crossing the finish line, and I think I fell off my bike crossing the finish line because I was shocked that I won it. But still one of my best races for sure.
What one bit of advice would you give to people when they're having a mental block when riding? Whether that's, just doing something really small up to doing the big races.
I would always say walk away from it, which sounds really backwards, but actually if you've got a mental block from something, it's because you're building it up and putting too much pressure on yourself, and it's just going, are you enjoying it in that moment? And actually the answer is going to be no, because you're just stressing yourself out and you get yourself angry. So just walk away from it. Generally it's going to be there when you come back to it. Obviously if you're at a race, it's harder to walk away from it, but go and put your focus into something else, just really try and switch that focus around rather than building up too much pressure about it. Just find the reason that you're there, because we all are probably there because we like riding bikes. So go and enjoy it.
Yeah. And finally then, if you were going to give one piece of advice to a young up and coming rider, what would it be?
It sounds really cheesy, but just never lose the fun out of it. Just, really try and enjoy it. And, if you want it, it's out there to go and get. Like there's literally nothing stood in anybody's way. So it's put yourself in the situations that you can do your best in on that day and at that moment, and never lose the fun out of it, because I think it is too easy to build up the pressure and to put too much pressure on yourself and lose the love of it. But
and obviously relocate to the Forest of Dean.
Definitely come to the Forest of Dean.
Brilliant. Well, Katy, thanks. It's been so interesting talking to you today.
Thank you very much.
And it's been a real pleasure having a legend on the second ever Pedals podcast. So thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.